Hello, fellow choral directors, and welcome to another episode of ChoralEd. I'm your host, Micah Bland. Thanks so much for watching, and be sure to hit that like and subscribe button. Today, we are on part 2 of our series of The Boy's Changing Voice with Dr. Terry Barham. As previously mentioned, this series and these shorter episodes are taken from a longer presentation by Dr. Barham, which is currently available on YouTube through the ChoralEd channel. But I mention this because you may notice some edited transitions in today's video. Today, episode part 2 is focused on determining adolescent boys' voice parts. Now, frequency of determining boys' voice parts will be discussed in this episode, but I also want to share some thoughts with you about this and give you some signs that might indicate that it's time to either monitor that voice more closely or repeat and do another voice test with that student. So the first thing is you might hear an audible change and dropping of the voice in the speaking voice. You might also hear some breaks in the voice. And so this is an automatic indication, okay, it's time to retest that voice and monitor this voice more closely. You might also hear some breathiness in the sound. That's very normal. Dr. Barham uses that term a lot when talking about boys' voices. It's normal that breathiness is in there. As well as you might hear some loss of range, of course, the top end, but there might be some loss of range in the middle as well. If you don't get to hear the boy's voice individually that often, and what I would encourage you to do is kind of walk around the room and stand closer to these students as you're rehearsing. That's a great opportunity for you to listen to those voices individually. But if that's not the case, you may notice some physical signs of straining by tilting the head up as they're trying to sing higher notes. Well, this is because the range is going down, those top notes are disappearing, and so they have to struggle a little more to sing those notes, and that's kind of their natural reaction, is to try to stretch their neck up. So all these signs indicate it's time to do another voice test or monitor that voice more closely. I also want to mention to you that there are some resources available to you that have been provided by Dr. Barham, and these are available through a Google Drive link in the description below, so I hope you would check those out. Thanks for watching, and here is Dr. Terry Barham discussing determining voice parts for adolescent boys.
Now, what are some specific components of the test? Well, in the list below that I'm going to read to you, only note reading generated less than 60% of the teacher's votes. Master teachers are thorough, well-organized, and efficient when they test and classify their guides. They have to be. You should be too. In order of importance, here are the components they test. The highest one is lowest sung note. That's 98% of the people. 93%, the highest sung note. 91%, the normal speaking pitch. 88% do the comfortable tessitura. Hearing ability, their ears. 86%. Quality of the sung sound, 83%. Location of register changes, 83%. Voice confidence and personality, 74%. And lastly, part in the choir each boy will sing, 71%. It is especially important that each boy see the results of the testing. You want it stuck on the wall. In The Boy's Changing Voice, that book that Darren and I did, the authors recommend that charts be placed on the wall. For some boys, that piece of paper with their name and details about their vocal growth may be the only public recognition that they ever receive. Think about that. Boys need to be told, you're special, you're wonderful. Put that information up there. That's me, this shy boy may tell one of his friends as they gaze at his voice chart. that boy will keep singing for you. How often to test? The master teachers were asked, on average, how often do you test boys during a typical school year? The answers were fairly simple. Every 6 weeks for most teachers. Every 8 weeks, 29% of the teachers. And once a semester, 48%. Not very many test only once a year because change happens when you least expect it. What about having students classify themselves? That's what I used to try in some workshops, and it would work very well. In a choral program where large numbers of students are involved, one teacher has developed an alternate means of testing because no time is available for individual testing. I'll bet you find that to be true, don't you? We warm up together and I talk about range, quality, and tessitura. The students then classify themselves. After a few days of rehearsal, during which I get into their space and listen to each boy as we sing together or in smaller groups, I reclassify those who didn't choose the best part themselves. A New Mexico teacher also has students classify themselves by approach, but approaches the process differently. With beginning students, I spend the first several days teaching a simple 2-part song. Everyone learns both parts, and I just listen. When the parts are learned and it's time to put them together, I let the boys choose which part feels most comfortable for them. That's really smart, isn't it? Then I spend several days asking 6 to 8 boys at a time to sing the same part as a means of testing their voices. I use 5-note scale passages to find range extremes. That's Virginia Morrison in Clovis, New Mexico. What about the girls? See, nothing has been said so far, but here you'll hear it. Half of the participating master teachers do not allow girls in the room when testing boys. More than a third say that they sometimes have girls in the room. Boys are much more relaxed without girls present. They are more willing to try what I ask without fear of being laughed at by the girls. That's Kelly Batt in Kirkwood, Missouri. The confidence factor is important in working with these emerging adults. Boys need to build confidence in singing before being placed on display in front of girls. That's Susan Ayler. She's in Midwest City, Oklahoma. Now, what are my recommendations I've talked about here for a long time? Create an atmosphere that makes boys feel comfortable and welcome in your room. Test boys in groups of 2 or 3 to break the ice. Test one-on-one only when a boy can handle the situation. Plan for success. Have boys speak their names or siren loudly on ooh or ah, low to high and back, or do lip buzzes with sirens to relieve tension. Lip buzzes activate the breath. If a boy is nervous, ask him to speak his name or say hello to find his normal speaking pitch target area. Use the piano to find that pitch if you don't have perfect pitch. In full view of everyone, put the speaking pitch on a staff next to a chart showing the various categories you use. Be sure all the boys can see it. As a temporary measure, label his voice category based on the lowest note he sings, knowing that a boy's speaking pitch is 3 or 4 half steps above his lowest singing pitch. You know, when I used to go around the country doing workshops with junior high kids, when I would get there early, I would just walk amongst the kids listening to the boys, because you could learn a lot from hearing boys speak. Some speak high, some speak low. After he is more comfortable singing, check his upper range using a scalar pattern, like so, fa, mi, re, do, or ooh, beginning in a comfortable tessitura. If a boy seems confident, ask him to sing a simple scalar pattern on La. Do, re, mi, re, do, or so, fa, mi, re, do, in a comfortable range, his comfort zone. Have him and other boys who are listening attentively and looking at a chart you have devised, let them help decide what category is best for now. Once I had gotten used to testing boys' voices after a couple of years, I did that rather often. Have the boys involved. Have boys face you and away from the class while you move down the keyboard by chromatic half steps. After finding the lowest sung pitch, then move up by half steps. Tell boys that some notes might not come out, and there may be a temporary blank spot, a hole, because their voices are changing. It's normal. There's that word again, normal. Boys need to hear it all the time. Keep your attention focused on the boy. Any tension in his neck or jaw. Lowest and highest note comfortably sung. Speaking pitch. Comfortable tessitura. Hearing ability. That's kind of important, is it? Hearing ability. The quality of his voice. Is it a nice warm sound, or is it real bright, like you might get from some country singers? You have to help them in a nice way learn to sing with new vowels. It's not going to sound like this. I'm from Oklahoma, you can tell. And location of register changes. Make notes on a grid for all the boys to see as you proceed. Place lowest and highest notes sung on a large chart on the wall. Be sure you have this chart. Change to a familiar song like My Country's Thee, Country 'Tis of Thee, or Jingle Bells. If a boy might respond better, use only the first phrase to save time. For the first session of testing, go no higher in pitch when a boy is struggling to reach pitches. You'll see the tension in their neck and faces. Show the boy the category you think is best for him, or ask him his opinion of what he's looking at when he's looking at a chart of the categories you use, and you place a note head indicating his highest and lowest sung pitches. Tell him which pitches to fake in the music. Remember, sometimes a guy can't sing certain pitches. They're just not in his range. That's where he fakes it. Explain to him that his voice will continue to grow and change. Other pitches will be possible as he grows. Be genuine, encourage, compliment whenever possible, smile lots, say thanks, move quickly to the next boy. What to do immediately after the test. Show each boy the results on your chart, the keyboard, or a chalkboard. discuss the part he will sing, notes to fake, octaves to sing above or below certain written pitches in the music. That's Karen Sims in Mays, Kansas. Tell him the part he sings will change as he grows. Thank him sincerely for singing for you. Be positive, no matter how shaky the boy appears to you. Smile at him. Look him in the eye. Deal with register changes. For many boys whose voices are changing, the voice that wavers or cracks is an embarrassment. For boys fortunate enough to have teachers who can offer practical help and encouragement through the sometimes dramatic change process, singing can be a big confidence builder and a stepping stone to greater self-knowledge.
Thanks so much, Dr. Barham, for sharing your extensive knowledge with us today about the boy's changing voice. Until next time, thanks for watching, and I hope you continue to inspire the future leaders of our world through this wonderful gift we call music. Thanks.